I would like to highlight some basic virtual housekeeping rules, just briefly. First of all, this just for everyone's information, this webinar is being recorded. So this is just to integrate anyone's comments or suggestions in our future submissions. All participants will be muted during the course of this webinar. This is to ensure that there is no background noise which disturbs the discussion which is ongoing. All questions from the audience and members of the
Recording
media
in progress.
Directed towards the panelist has to be posted in the Q&A box, which is at the lower bottom of your screen. The moderator of the event will coordinate the Q&A questions. He will actually select from the Q&A box and pose it to the panelists. In instance where the moderator does not have ample time to ask all the questions posted in the Q&A box, we will note it down so that a response can be provided later. Without further ado, let us officially kickstart today's event. The chief guest for today's event, the Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, Honorable Faiyaz Koya, CEOs, heads of organization, dear panelists, guests, members of the media, and dear consumers. Bula Vinaka, and a very warm good morning to you all. It is our pleasure to host you at this very important event this morning. My name is Vinash Singh, and I'm the Council's Manager, Campaigns, Information and Media, and I will be the MC for this event. Ladies and gentlemen, this event has been organized to talk, discuss, share industry experience, share ideas, consumers' view and issues, and look at recommendations on one of the most formidable forces of the 21st century, that is e-commerce. Given the presence of it is almost in every segment of the economy, we have planned today's discussions around the theme, Building Trust in E-commerce. We have a very robust panel discussion planned for you all as well. So without taking much of our time, I will now give the floor to the Chair of the Board of Consumer Council of Fiji, Mr. Roman Daya, to deliver his opening remarks and introduce our chief guest. Over to you, Mr. Daya.
Good morning, all. Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, Honorable Faiyaz Koya, respective CEOs and heads of organizations, fellow board members, panelists and moderator, traders, the representatives from Consumer International, and all you consumers. Bula Vinaka to you all. I would like to welcome you all to this very important webinar. I also wish to convey my hearty appreciation to each and every one of you for taking your time towards the consumers in Fiji by attending this very important event. As cashless transactions are rapidly emerging globally, consumers increasingly demanding more online purchases, many micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large businesses, have had to ramp up their digital activity in response to the challenges of COVID-19. Apart from operational modifications to decrease costs and increase revenues, numerous Fijian businesses have set up or expanded online sales in response to the pandemic. In line with this, the Fijian government has also introduced policies and incentives to promote the development of e-commerce. Additionally, the government is also making efforts to improve access to financial services, particularly for women, youth, and those living in rural areas. Such initiatives create an enabling environment for e-commerce, which ultimately benefits Fijian consumers. Consumer trust in e-commerce is a crucial component for its very success, and the government, through policy action and incentives, play a key role in this. Today, we will directly hear from our chief guest for this event, the Minister for Commerce, Tourism and Transport, Honorable Faiyaz Koya, on the importance of consumer trust in e-commerce and the role of government and businesses in creating an enabling environment for this to eventuate. Honorable Koya has been leading the charge for the development of a consumer-friendly business environment in Fiji, and his ministry has done tremendous work toward the COVID-19 outbreak. Honorable Koya is a lawyer by profession and is responsible for creating a brighter economic future for all. So without taking any more time, I now invite Honorable Koya to deliver his keynote remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the Master of Ceremonies. To the Permanent Secretary for Commerce, Trade, Tourism, Transport, Mr. Shaheen Ali, Chairman of the Consumer Council of Fiji Board, Mr. Raman Dahia, Chief Executive Officer of Consumer Council of Fiji, Seema Shandil, Chief Executive of FCCC, Mr. Joel Abraham, and the Chief Executive Officer of Post Fiji Limited, Dr. Aniruddha Banswar, Director of Financial Intelligence Unit, Razim Baksh, representatives from Consumers International, panelists, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Mula Vinaka, and a very good morning to all of you. Today, we're actually going to be talking about a very important commodity, one that today influences a consumer's decision more than anything, and that is trust. Ladies and gentlemen, today's workshop should emphasize the importance of e-commerce and how e-commerce platforms can become a powerful tool in our transformation into a digital economy. And when I say digital economy, I mean the entire digital ecosystem, from an entrepreneur startup to our international trade. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, e-commerce is not a new concept, but what has happened is its prominence and sheer need has been exacerbated. Like we have to live with health and safety as a priority, COVID-19 pandemic has created opportunities that have massively accelerated the use of ICT and e-commerce and digitalization of processes. It goes without saying that this pandemic has caused a shift in consumer behavior from what they want to how they want to get it. And digital uptake has enabled businesses to respond quickly to the extreme disruption and to foster new business practices and to better position themselves for resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, Fiji has a strategic advantage in the Pacific. A recent national e-commerce assessment commissioned by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat shows that telecommunications infrastructure in Fiji remains the best and the most developed amongst the Pacific Island countries. Fiji is also a leading market in terms of both 4G, LTE, and 5G development in the region. And mobile and internet access are affordable and far cheaper than other islands, which is why we have the highest mobile and internet penetration in the Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, what this assessment also reveals is that lending services from commercial banks are generally focused on large infrastructure and low-risk projects, with SMEs representing a tiny portion or proportion of loans that are granted. This low access to financing limits the ability to of SMEs to invest in e-commerce related ventures and upgrades. Ladies and gentlemen, the notion that MSMEs are not tech savvy or digital literally, it is a myth, and it's actually a thing of the past. I can attest to see how MSMEs have adapted digitally, and I really want to share some examples. The FDB COVID-19 Recovery Credit Guarantee Scheme for MSMEs have seen almost 99% of the applications received digitally. Our Young Entrepreneurs Scheme has seen more than 350 entrepreneurs, and 98% of the National Export Strategy applications have been received digitally. We've seen more than 5,300 businesses, mostly MSMEs, access our online portal for various things such as passes and permits to operate and curfew passes, etc. Now, embracing e-commerce at the onset of the pandemic helped many MSMEs pull through the crisis. In fact, they're now offering a wider range of products and services, which means more choices and more competition. The Fijian government, ladies and gentlemen, recognizes the demand and potential out there in the digital economy, particularly in the e-commerce space. To graduate more MSMEs to online businesses, the ministry is working with the e-commerce such as Vodafone and Post Fiji. They will assist MSMEs to adapt and incorporate online trading and digital payment platforms. And this partnership is an effort to connect Fijian-made products to markets in Fiji and beyond. The Fijian government, in collaboration with the Reserve Bank in Fiji, has partnered with Vodafone to assist micro to small enterprises to sign up as a merchant on VT Card. A total of $1.2 million has been allocated for this partnership. Funds will be channeled towards covering the cost associated with getting MSMEs onto the VT Card platform and receiving payments through internet payment gateways. Initiatives such as the VT Card comes at a time where the very existence of many businesses is conditional to their ability to break barriers and stay relevant and ahead of the competition. Ladies and gentlemen, whilst businesses have embraced e-commerce, consumers remain skeptical about the perceived high risks and uncertainty with the online shopping concept, and they settle towards a traditional shopping environment. Tangible factors in traditional shopping environments, such as the appearance of a store and direct contact with a salesperson, it provides a certain degree of comfort and trust. We must also acknowledge that consumers, especially young consumers, have also adapted and accepted these tools, including cashless transactions and online transactions and sales. The lack of willingness to take risk or have confidence in our MSMEs on the part of our banks and financial institutions is still an inhibiting factor. And I must repeat that the lack of willingness to take risk or have confidence in our MSMEs on the part of our banks and financial institutions is still an inhibiting factor. It is not only banks, but all stakeholders like our telcos, e-commerce platform providers, and major retail outlets' unwillingness to work with each other actually compounds the issue. So, ladies and gentlemen, for e-commerce to work, interoperability is vitally important. It was heartwarming to read in the media that a group of MSMEs were able to broker a deal with one of the commercial banks a few weeks ago to offer e-commerce products. Now, this is a perfect example of how collective efforts can result in necessary changes that are needed by the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, there are huge potential benefits of e-commerce to consumer welfare, but at the time, lack of product information, unfair business practices, inadequate online dispute resolution, and breaches of consumer privacy is commonly found. Now, to protect consumers and ensure a level playing field, there is a need for review of consumer policies. There should be special features of e-commerce in the respective consumer law. Both consumers and business will be made aware of their rights and obligations in the digital marketplace. There also needs to be a comprehensive audit of policies, incentives, and law related to e-commerce. This will actually lead to better alignment. And I'm tasking the ministry to conduct this task in conjunction with the stakeholders like the Consumer Council. The government will be able to achieve a twofold effect of assisting businesses get on a digital platform whilst providing consumers certainty with online shopping. And we are doing this because, simply put, this is the future. And COVID-19 has made us realize that this change is essential, but we must do it right, and we must do it transparently. Building and maintaining consumer confidence is one of the crucial aspects of e-commerce. It remains key for businesses in winning this confidence to enable this concept to be successful. As businesses, you must take up the responsibility to create awareness and disseminate correct information to build trust and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, and to our distinguished panel and panelists, the challenge and message to all of you is quite simple, and you cannot rest on your laurels. You need to continue to reinvent, adapt, and improve when delivering services using the enormously beneficial tool of e-commerce. It is the future. The Fijian consumers deserve the best of convenience from e-commerce, as do consumers overseas. Fijian MSMEs deserve the level playing created through e-commerce. The Fijian businesses deserve the efficiencies, market share, and ultimately profit margins created by e-commerce. And ladies and gentlemen, the Fijian economy deserves the benefits created by enhanced economic activity by e-commerce. I would advise against this being a virtual talk show. We need robust outcomes and recommendations that the Consumer Council and the Ministry can act upon. And with those few words, I have great pleasure in declaring the workshop open, and I wish you all well. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your remarks and your assurances for your continued support in order to actually further guide the development of e-commerce and actually encouraging more MSMEs to go digital, as ultimately it benefits will be realized by the ordinary Fijian consumers. Additionally, such commitments from our policymakers themselves will go a long way to build consumer confidence in e-commerce. Moving on with our agenda for the day, I now hand over the floor to the Consumer Council of Fiji Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Shima Shandil, for her remarks.
Thank you, Vinaj. The Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, Honorable Faiyaz Koya, the Permanent Secretary for MCCCC, Mr. Ali, respective CEOs and heads of organizations, the board chair and members of Consumer Council of Fiji, the moderator, panelists, representative from Consumers International, ladies and gentlemen, and not forgetting our friends from media. Pula Vinaka, and a very good morning to you all. At the very outset, I would like to thank our chief guest for the event, the Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, Mr. Koya, for delivering a strong message to businesses and consumers alike, and for the support his ministry has shown to develop the e-commerce sector in Fiji. His presence is a clear indication of his commitment to engage in issues that can improve the lives of our ordinary Fijians. Ladies and gentlemen, I also join with our board chair in welcoming you all